how do you tell time? I used to wear a watch all the time. And then at some point, I got an Apple Watch. And that was cool for a while. Now, it got annoying after a little bit because then I got all these notifications and texts on my watch. And so I got rid of it after wearing it for about 2 to 3 years. Now I get back to my watches. I have a few that I still wear, but now these days, it's like I don't even wear one very often. I use my iPhone if I need to get a sense of time. But something else has happened too in the midst of all of this. You know, if you pay attention, there are other ways to tell time too. I'm learning the patterns of the sun here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And if I look out my window, I get a kind of a little bit of a sense about what time it is in the day. Oh, but also around here, around the office too, you learn the patterns of everyone. So sometimes I come out of my office and I realize that everyone's gone. Oh, it must be lunchtime. So there are all these ways in which we tell time and we mark time. And time matters, even though time is a bit of a construct that we've created to mark days. And we've even at times commodified said time, right? Hourly wages, for example. But in the end, we as humans are used to the passage of time. We tell our stories, we get older. There are signs in us that time is going by. And in the church, there is also a way in which we mark time. It's an ancient way. Now, that development happened within the first probably 500 to 600 years of the church, maybe a little bit longer, where the church began to tell its story and began to narrate that story in a particular order to help the community know the story of our faith. This is in a pre-scientific time where most people didn't know how to read and write. And so the church created this way to help the people mark time. Not just in the tolling of the bells every day to mark certain moments in the day, but also in the telling of the story of Jesus over the year. It always began in a particular way, and then it developed an ending in that particular way. And in the middle, there were feasts and fasts and times of celebration and time of struggle, all of them a way to mark time, helping the community know what time it was. We are now in this weekend that we're celebrating together in this moment, closing what we call the church year. And it always ends in this way. It always ends with a feast. And the feast is called Christ the King Sunday, or the Reign of Christ Sunday. And it's a way to encapsulate a sense that in the end, no matter what's happened in this year of the story of Jesus together, that in the end, that Christ is the holder and the keeper of all that is. Now, I don't like this lordship talk very much, and we no longer live in feudal societies, but it's interesting to think about for us together, what does it look like to finish in a time of reflection about Jesus Christ being the one who helped us make meaning out of all things. So lordship, or in this case, it means that we primarily begin making meaning through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And that then our claim is that then we live like Jesus. Jesus guiding us, directing us, inviting us, the direction of travel for our lives being the way of Jesus. That's the thing that gives us life. And so this ending is a reminder of that reality that we have claimed for ourselves. Now, that reality is tested through the year and its seasons that come with that year. And we have rehearsed it over and over again, right? This way of marking time began over a year ago now, and we're about to begin again, right? So we finished the year, and then a week later we gather together and we begin with Advent, right? I see some hope, a possibility, and then we move from there to a season of Epiphany, where we remember that Jesus is manifested in particular ways in the world, in the everyday of life, and then we do Lent and Holy Week and Easter, and we do Eastertide, where we are marveling about the amazing appearances of Jesus after he was resurrected. And then Jesus ascends to heaven, and we go into a season called ordinary time, where it's not that it's every day, really, it's that it's ordered, Sunday after Sunday, the ho-hum of every day of life. And then in the fall of the year, we begin landing, which is kind of where we are right now, right? We begin to hear the story of Jesus in very interesting ways. We begin to move towards a new year and the end of one year and the beginning of another. And that season always has some reflective nature to it. It's no accident that we have this in the fall of the year, a time of preparation for the kind of sense of winter, right? The kind of the emptiness, the coldness, the starkness of winter. So we are here to gather at the end of a Christian year. We've heard the story of Jesus all through the year, and now we are making a proclamation, which is it doesn't matter what's ahead. Christ reigns in our lives. That's what we have promised through our baptism. So what would it look like for you? Just like at the end of the calendar year, in about 6 to 7 weeks, you tend to do a little review of your year. What would it look like to think about, what have you learned about Jesus in the last year together? What are the things that come to mind? What's grabbed your attention about this story we've told together? And if you've been with us a few times in worship during the last year in this way, what stories have caught your attention? Which ones have you liked? Which ones have you not liked? And how have those helped you in the midst of your marking of time? See, the early church believed that this would help all of us mark time in a particular way. What does it look like for us to mark time beyond the calendars that we have? Marking time beyond the busyness of the said calendar. Marking time beyond being concerned about what the next thing is, right? Always driven by the notifications on our phones, or by the next meeting, or always looking ahead about the next day off. And in some ways, when we do that, something weird happens. It's almost like we might be wasting away this present moment because we're so worried about the next thing. See, the beauty of this way of marking time that the church has given us is that it's deeply rooted in this very moment. The next day, the next moment hasn't been given to us yet. And the promise is that just like Jesus is in this very moment, Jesus is going to be in the next very moment. This is why Jesus constantly asks us not to be anxious about anything, right? So if Christ reigns our lives, and if the church gave us a way to mark time, then that means that all we have is this present moment. And in this moment, God is. And in this moment, you belong to God. And in this moment, there's hope, often in the midst of hopelessness. So what time is it for you? Maybe you're watching this in the middle of the night and you can't sleep. What time is it for you? Where's Jesus in this portion of time? Maybe you are watching us on Saturday nights or Sunday morning. Maybe you're traveling, or you haven't been able to worship in person in a long time. What time is it for you? What does it mean for Christ to break into this very moment and bring in love and life and possibility and hope? What does it mean for Christ to reign in this very moment in your life? How do you keep time? What time is it where you are? And here's the promise. The promise is actually super simple. That in each moment of our lives, in each breath we take, in each second that goes by, the love of Christ is. It is Christ who holds this universe together. It is Christ who gives us our next moment. It is Christ who infuses each and every day with the possibility of love and life and forgiveness and reconciliation and new life. This, friends, is truly good news. So as this year ends in the Christian season, take stock, but know that around the corner, there's a new opportunity. Jesus coming again to help us be restored again and again. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So let's celebrate and remember together. Amen.